Morning, everyone, and welcome to our Heavenly Parent Holy Community, Oceania, Hoon. Today with Reverend Greg Stone. It is Sunday, the 31st of July, or the 3rd of July in the 10th year of Chonilguk. So let's begin, as always, with a bow to our Heavenly Parents and our true parents, Chariot, Jombe, Paro. And let's recite our family pledge, both in Korean and English. Thank you.
가존맨세 7. 전국 주인 우리 가족은 참사랑을 중심하고 본연의 혈통과 연결된 위하는 생활을 통하여 심존 문화 세계를 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다.
Family pledge number 7. Our family, the owner of Chonilguk, pledges through living for the sake of others to perfect the world based on the culture of heart, which is rooted in the original lineage by centering on true love. I'd like to ask Mark Burfield if you could offer the opening prayer, please.
Please join me in prayer. Dearest Heavenly Parent, beloved true parents, we greet you this new day at the beginning of a new week. We are very grateful to be able to come together as a community of brothers and sisters throughout Oceania, centering on you and on our true parents, to greet you each day and to share in your truth, in your spirit, love. We recognize that due to the fall of humankind, you have been through an incredibly suffering and painful path throughout history in trying to work towards the restoration of humankind to come back to the place of the original intent through the establishment of Chonilguk. So at this time, with our true parents have been on earth, true father's life on earth, over 92 years, and now about to come to the 10th anniversary of his ascension, and we are preparing the event to meet Father, and we also, of course, with True Mother over the last decade, carrying on from Father's legacy, and also, of course, throughout her life, working with incredible intent and strong, huge direction to establish and substantiate your providence and the establishment of Chonilguk. We thank you today that we can share this time and listen to the sharing and testimony of our dearest elder brother, Reverend Greg Stone, my spiritual father, who has really given his life and dedication to help advance the providence, especially here in Oceania and Australia. I offer this prayer and report in the name of Mark and Masako Burfield of the Blessed Central Family, Arju.
Thank you. Thank you. And let's give a warm welcome to Greg as he shares this morning.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'd like to just share my screen if I could. Here we go. Okay. So I hope everyone can hear me okay. So I just like to give a testimony a little bit initially about my early life and family, but then I'd also like to move on to the three early visits of true parents to to Australia, and then finish with that kind of testimony about those visits. All right, so here we go. Family and early childhood, 1951 to 1963. So this is just until I was 12. I was born in 1951. And then this is my dad. My dad is on the left, and that's my mom. That's when they were married. and they were married just after the Second World War. Both my father and mother were in the Second World War, involved in the Second World War. Dad was in the Air Force, and he was in Papua New Guinea, fighting the Japanese, and he was working on the instruments of the planes, repairing the instruments and so on. My mum was also in the Air Force, and she was in Morse code, communications. And the person on the far right is my dad's younger brother, and then my mum's first cousin is the lady next to him. They were the first man and bridesmaid, I guess. This is my grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side, and that's my sister and myself there. So we were real baby boomers. Dad and mum, after the war, they met. Then, as so many other people did, they got married and started their family, sometimes a little bit late because of the war. And then babies came along. So my grandmother was very religious. She was the one who had the most influence on my religious upbringing. That she loved the Bible, and she would often teach us as young kids and read the Bible to us. My pa was an electrician and a very righteous man. He actually fought in the First World War. He was one of the people fighting in Gallipoli, which is that famous battle of the Anzacs back in the First World War. He was injured, buried alive, and dug out and recuperated in England. And then, of course, married grandma straight after the First World War. Quite a few of my relatives were involved in the First and Second World War, fighting for Australia. And the one I'm named after, which is my middle name is George, was my mum's favourite uncle, who he joined up. He joined up the when he was only 17. He was too young, and his father followed him into the war to try to protect him, but he was killed, and but George survived. Anyway, so there we go. This is I was born in 1951. This was about 3 years old, and I had this great dog. This is a young puppy that was one of my greatest friends all through my childhood. Fantastic dog. And as he grew up, he could jump that fence that's behind there. That's like, I don't know, 5.5 foot fence. He could easily jump those fences. You couldn't really keep him in. Anyway, but he followed me. Everything I did, he would be going around, even to school. He'd come to school, which is probably nearly 2 miles away, every day to come and pick us up from school and walk home with us. So it's great to have a dog, and pets. That was my sister, myself. This was at a fancy dress thing for the church. We used to go to Sunday school every Sunday. But anyway, I don't know, I was a pirate. I didn't particularly like having a moustache drawn on me there, so I wasn't looking very happy. My sister was Little Bo Peep. Anyway, we were close. We're only 15 months apart. And there's a dog a bit bigger, and it's us there, my sister and myself. We lived in the suburbs of Melbourne. We never locked the doors in those days. We were very close to our neighbours, and we used to play with them all the time and play football and cricket and whatever else. So this is now in my teens, and my sister, dad and mum. So my mum wanted to send me to a good school. So she went to work. Dad was worked for what's called the Postmaster General's Department, later became Telstra. He was teaching, technicians how to install phones and stuff like that. So mum was a stenographer and secretary. So she went to work in order to put me through grammar school. So I went to a school, Mentone Grammar. Around that time, this is our house, and in Parkdale, And our first car was the Austin 7. Yeah, you can see there on top left. So you can see that this is a long time ago in the 1950s. And we used to go in the school holidays caravanning. My parents loved traveling on caravanning. We go with our cousins and even our neighbors during the school holidays and Christmas break. But we graduated to F.J. Holden. You can see that there. And then later into a Ford to pull the caravan, a bit stronger vehicle to pull the caravan. So that was our early life. Then, going to secondary school, as I said, I was sent to Mentone Grammar as a kind of a strict school, focusing a lot on, leadership and sport and all this kind of things. So that was first form, which was like year 7, and the teacher, because it was a Church of England school, you can see the teacher there was actually a priest. So we'd have divinity, we'd go to church every week. So that's what the school was like. It was, a lot of discipline. You got caned and, if you did anything wrong. And anyway, I tried my best there, and a lot of sport. There was a tennis team there at the school, but also I became a prefect. And cadet under officer. They had cadets there and everything like that. Then university. This was during my secondary school. I was a strong Christian and a believing Christian, and used to love God. And I remember during my later part of the secondary education, I was praying to Jesus. I couldn't understand why he, when I was reading about the crucifixion, why such a disastrous and painful situation was necessary. So I couldn't understand certain things, why God's providence had to take that painful path, and why Jesus had to suffer and die. And then I said to Jesus, I had some premonition that I may leave him. I said, if I ever leave you, please find me again. So anyway, went to university. It was really quite secular. Yeah, that's what we all used to look like. That it was like everybody had beards and fairly long hair in those days. So anyway, I was a Christian the first year university, but second year university, with the influence of a lot of secularism and questioning about why I was a Christian, I started to think to have integrity, I have to allow for the possibility maybe God doesn't exist, because I'm just a Christian because I was brought up in a Christian family and home and nation. So so I started questioning, and I guess I became an agnostic, and I looked into philosophy and things like that, and began more deeper spiritual searching. Significant time in my life was at Ormond College. That's a Presbyterian residential college at University of Melbourne, and a lot of a lot of interesting friends and people who were lawyers, and I met and became good friends with a lot of people there. So that was a very significant time. And then after that, I continued on with my education. Did a bachelor's degree, science, and then diploma of education as a secondary school teacher. And then I continued on with postgraduate research in physics. So that was me in those days, looking pretty hairy, and that was in Flinders Island, believe it or not. That my sister and her husband was a abalone diver, so he went to Flinders Island, and I visited them one time. That's my young niece. All right, so time of searching, and after 2 years of PhD research, which was quite successful, in terms of publications and everything, it was going fairly well. but my heart was not happy. I didn't know. I wanted to do something to help people more than just, I use an electron microscope in the basement of the physics department and research crystals. I wanted to do so. I wanted to. I remembered, I guess, the spirit of my grandmother, and when I used to want to be a missionary. I used to want to go and help people in India and things like that when I was a teenager. And I went to Perth and I studied. I took a year off my PhD studies, and then I went to Perth and studied basically a second-year medicine course with a possible view to changing to medical physics or even being a doctor. So that's Perth back then, and I used to live just down the hill there. That's King's Park. I think it's King's Park. If anybody's been there, it's a kind of a plateau just on the outskirts of the city of Perth. And I used to ride my bike around to the University of Western Australia every day. But in the mornings, I do yoga and meditation just there in King's Park. And I remember I wrote a poem at that time. I couldn't have feeling that the garden, the lost garden, it was called the Lost Garden, and how we lost our homeland with God and some kind of a longing to return to that. Around that time also, I came across a Japanese religion. It's called Mahikari, which means true light. It's a New Age religion founded in 1959, and they did healing through the energy of the hands and spiritual and physical healing. So that was kind of like part of my journey back towards God, very much so. So that was a very significant year. And then in Perth, I met the tiny little one-house community with about 10 members. My spiritual father's Ian McIntosh, and at that time, nearly every month, a member would join. The life in the church was really simple. It was basically witnessing and fundraising, and that was not much else. So not complicated, and people would join. We just teach the principle. So anyway, I was actually witnessing to him, trying to get him to join Mahikari, but he ended up witnessing to me, and so I heard the principle. I was really taken by the divine principle. It was answering so many questions that I had about Christianity and about the spirit world and about the whole history of the Bible, which I used to study a lot, in Sunday school. So yeah, it was just, and then to hear that the Messiah was on earth, that was it. I had to join. I knew my grandmother had died earlier that year, and I really felt she was in the spirit world guiding me to the church, and because she felt that it was the last days and this was the time of the return of Christ. And she would often talk about that. And also she'd talk about the failure of John the Baptist, which very few Christians really picked up from the Bible, but she was a great Bible student. She talked about that. So anyway, at that time in Australia, 1977, when I joined, the church was in two parts. One was from missionary Carl Redmond from England, and he had missionized initially in 1973 Sydney, and then Brisbane, and then Hobart. On the other hand, also in 1973, a few months later, Krista Jensen and Annette were the two main German missionaries sent by Paul Werner, and they were missionized Melbourne and then Adelaide and then Perth. So luckily, by 1977, a few years later, there was a centre in Perth. Mike Tracy was the centre leader at the time, and Susan Crosthwaite, who you heard of a few weeks ago, was the mother of the centre. So yeah, but then soon after I joined, a few months, Father Carl and Krista went to America for a holiday, I think it was, and then came back, and Father had put the two missions together. He'd made Carl the leader and Krista in the mother position. So that was God's Day, 1978. The two missions were united. I was within 12 months. I was a city leader. Only 12 months in the church. We were all so young in those days, and I was sent to Adelaide. I became the Adelaide leader, and then this was some of the early members. You see, even so Jean-Yves Krogonex there next to me on my left, and then you see also this
Bronwyn and Penny.
sorry, I've just gone blank. Thanks, Jacinta. Oh my God. Okay, so Bronwyn and Penny Moore, they were called then. She was only 15. She joined, bright red hair. We heard her testimony, I think, as well, a little bit earlier. And yes. Katrina, sorry. Yeah. So anyway, we witnessed, we actually did really well. The centre grew pretty quick. Tracy was the mother of the centre. She was the main one, I think, who could bring people in. But brothers and sisters of all those members started to join. And Anne, she was a great witnesser as well. So anyway, we grew. We actually did pretty well there for about 4 years. I was the state leader of Adelaide, and we got some good results. Then, of course, the blessing. So we went, at that time, pretty well everyone was single members. Even Carl and Krista were not blessed. They were the key missionaries. So we're all just single people, mainly in our 20s. And there was no news of any blessing. So basically, you didn't know. Not like now, every year there's a blessing, right? At least one. Pretty well, but then you didn't know when the next one was going to come. So we just got the call, and we it was actually, I think, 1980, got the call for the matching, and those of us who had visas went to New York, and I was matched by photo, and then in 1982, the 6,000 couple blessing in Korea. So Reiko was there. We met for the first time at the blessing. It was rather interesting. So many buses, thousands of people. And then we didn't actually start our family life until 1987 because Reiko was working, fundraising and so on in America, Japan, and then later America. She went for a little stint, and then I was working in Australia, mainly as a state leader in various states. But as soon as we started family life, we had our first child, Jung-un Rebecca, 1988. Yeah, so our first child was born. And then they started to come thick and fast, I guess. I was actually, so we had 3 kids within the space of about, 2 years. Maybe 3 years. So, so Hungi was born in 1990. He's the youngest one there in Reiko's arms. So that was there at the Elwood Centre. I had been 2 years in Korea. Father had asked the national leaders or the potential national leaders of countries, 12 countries, to come and learn Korean in Korea. So I went there for nearly 2 years and came back. And we'd had 3 kids by then. But soon after that, more came. That was here in 2 more there added. There's 5 there, and so that was just here in Concord in Sydney, and we lived together. And we it was pretty chaotic with kids all so young, you know. So. At that time, also in Elwood, in Melbourne, all the young second gen were coming along, and they all played together. So Mika was there. That's not Mika there, but in that photo, but she was in the mix of these young kids. You see Jung-un there, our daughter, then first daughter, and then you have Daniel Tracy, who later they were blessed together, believe it or not, but they were just kids together. And then Joshua McInerney's there. And I think Nathan McInerney there. And yeah, the Escobar kids were there as well. All right, so that was in the garage in Elwood. And that's, yeah, so 6 kids we had, and they're supporting each other. So, yeah, that was at the, I think that's the beach, Port Phillip Bay. I think, anyway, Mornington Beach, yeah, one Christmas time. Okay, that's them now. So they're all grown up. They're all working. Min's a vet. Jung-un is a teacher and now into property development. And Gukbo is physiotherapy. Hungi's X-ray at doing X-rays at Wollongong Hospital. Quan is IT developer, and then the youngest with the beard on the left there, Songwo, he's now a chemical engineer. So anyway, they're all doing well, very close. All of us are really close. We really love each other a lot, and we meet often. Although some of them not involved in the church, most of them actually. Anyway, which is I guess symptomatic of this kind of situation. And now we have 5 grandchildren. That was a couple of years ago. So we have an extra little one, which is the joy of our life. Yeah, really terrific. So now I want to just go on to talk more about the 3 visits of true parents, which is probably some of the most significant things. So I was 1992, 93, and 95. When I was in Korea, 1990, 91, we used to go to Hannam-dong, and I met Mrs. Won Pok Chae, who was one of those professors, I think at Ewha University, who was kicked out, and she became father's main translator into English at one stage. And her son is Dr. Suk, right? Anyway, I happened to meet her at Hannam-dong, and I talked to her, and she said to me, father wanted to go to Australia back in the 60s during the time he was doing the whole, setting up the holy grounds, and they were traveling around. But just before he was due to go there and come to Australia, something very important, significant happened in Korea, and he had to divert to Korea, and he never made it to Australia. But in 1992, for the first time, father came to Australia, and he landed in Cairns. You can see way up north there, November the 25th. Father and mother landed in tropical Australia in Cairns because father wanted to go fishing for black marlin, and that's a place where black marlin can be caught. So we were. I wasn't there. I think Sunico and James were based in Cairns at the time, the Babs, and they would played a significant part in preparing and also welcoming true parents there. Mother went out to Cairns and bought these T-shirts, and everybody got the T-shirts. You can see Peter Kim on the right, and you can see Hyung-hun Kim there, just next to father, and some of the other staff or true parents were there in Cairns. And father went out fishing for 3 days, and of course he had to go right out, and it took a few hours, I think, to get out. So he ended up having a plane take him out to the boat where they were fishing. He wasn't able to catch a black marlin at the time. But you can see Rex Reed was there. You can see Mr. Rye kneeling down there in front of father. And they were all out there after the black marlin during that first visit. And father called Mr. Rye, you can see there, very serious discussions about buying 3 tuna boats. And Mr. Rye negotiating with father about how it would be possible to do that. Anyway, we ended up buying, Mr. Rye ended up buying one tuna fishing boat as our initial offering to true parents, of course, and a fishing Providence at that time. Then they came down to Sydney. They flew down to Sydney, and this was because Mother was on this 1992 world tour to launch Women's Federation of World Peace. So Mother was due to speak the next day. True parents came, and Mother gave the speech. The name of the speech, The Women's Role in World Peace, at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Double Bay on the 29th of November, 1992. That hotel has got a different name now, I believe. Anyway, in those days, that's what that was called. So Mother spoke. There was about, well, I don't know, I guess nearly 400 people there. And yeah, she delivered the speech. We had to work very hard to pull together that number of people. Father was just in the green room, which is right next door to that, and he was listening through closed circuit TV. So after the event, of course, we had cut the picture cake, and then we introduced each other. You know, there was some of you listening now will be remembering this this little meeting in this little room, and introducing yourself to Father and Mother at the time. Then on this first visit, Father was here for a few days, and Father and Mother were here for a few days. So they went to the Fitzroy Centre, and yeah, that time we had a house in Burwood Road, which was used to be a kind of medical surgery, as well as a house. And true parents visited there first, and then they went to this Burwood Centre, which is a community centre in Burwood in Sydney, and Father spoke there for 7 hours. Peter Kim was a translator, and he spoke to us about many things, and it is recorded by Ian Derbyshire and on video at the time, but I think we need to go back over all the different things Father explained to us in great detail, including that we had to have 10 divine principle books and lend them out and get people to read them and so on, and form a witnessing team. These kind of things all Father talked about very vigorously there. And then in that Fitzroy Centre, he wrote the famous calligraphy, The Unified World Begins from Oceania. You can see there Chihiro right behind Father, a very young looking Chihiro. Seti, I think that's Seti. He was security at the time, next to Chihiro. So there you go. Some young faces. And then they went on this, they went down, of course, to see some of the tourist sites, Sydney Harbour Bridge, and also the Opera House, and then walked into the Botanical Gardens. You see that where we took, I think, Mr. and Mrs. Horry to this place where true parents sat and admired the beautiful gardens there. All right. They went also to the Centre Point Tower. Now, I just, I don't have time to go into this one too much, but true parents also went to, the second visit the following year, they actually landed in New Zealand on the 16th of December 1993, and Mother spoke there, true parents and the completed testament ages, just a year later, and she spoke at the Sheraton Hotel in Auckland. And interestingly enough, the man on the left there is Ross Robertson. He's the man going to Korea in August, in a couple of weeks. And he's reconnected to us, but he introduced Mother. He was a member of Parliament at the time, so nearly 30 years later. So he knew the movement way back then, and of course he introduced Mother. Interesting, or welcome Mother. So back, and then of course this famous, also the second major calligraphy was given in Auckland, I believe at the Parnell Centre, that the liberation of all humanity comes through self-reliance. Yeah. So yeah, they're the two main calligraphies. They were given in 1992 in the first visit, actually, of true parents here. It's very yeah, that was the first visit, 1992. Those two calligraphies were given. So this is going back now to Mother's mother visited actually in 1993. True Father didn't come in 1993. I think Reverend Quark came. Yeah. So this was True Parents and Completed Testament era. This was the 17th of December. This was the day after they went to New Zealand. So once again, this was a Women's Federation event, and then this was the audience. You can see some of our dear members. Ursula was there, and of course Janine was there, and yeah. So once again, the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Double Bay, we used it again for the second visit. See, Tracy was there as well, and Beth. Anyway, you can see quite a few people in the audience. And then we went up to the presidential suite, I think it was called, and then mother spoke to us. And at that time, she also would call father, and father would speak to her and congratulate her on the speech. Mother would sing and then cut the victory cake and give us her message. Yeah, then the third visit of True Parents was actually 1995. It was a rather interesting visit. Of course, father was, of course, more controversial than True Mother. This time he came with Cook Junior and Reverend Quark, and Peter Kim was a translator. And we wanted to have this in Canberra. So we booked the Grand Hall of the People, the Grand Hall of Parliament, which you can do if, you know, many organisations do. But then some interestingly conservative politicians found out just a week or two before that True Father was speaking there, and they cancelled it. And we then transferred to the Hyatt Hotel. So yeah, we had quite a few religious leaders and dignitaries. We filled the banquet hall, and we had a banquet. This was welcoming True Parents there. Reikawa and I had the privilege of offering the flowers to True Parents. And then the interesting thing also in this visit was George Lemon organised a meeting with the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia. Kim Fisher, yeah. So that's Reverend Kim greeting him. He came, knocked on the door of the presidential suite at the Hyatt Hotel, and he stayed there for about half an hour talking with True Father, and especially about North Korea. He was very interested in North Korea, and Father had visited North Korea, you know, met Kim Il-sung. So he was interested to find out about those kind of things. But George Lemon organised that. He was leader of the National Party, Liberal National Coalition, meant that he was became the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia. Yeah. So anyway, Father's explained many things in Korean, and yeah. So and Cook Jinim was there as well. Yeah, in that meeting. And the other interesting thing with that third visit was that yeah, there was headwinds, I guess you could say. Not only with the cancellation of the venue, initial venue in Parliament, but also the weather. They had a massive storm, and on the night when we would have this event, they were saying, "Don't go out. It's too dangerous. It's too windy and too wet." And the Hyatt Hotel, which is a 5-star hotel, the only 5-star hotel in Canberra at the time, was leaking. The presidential suite where True Parents was leaking water, and it was coming down the stairs. And even inside in the foyer, it was raining. You see on the right, you can see there they had the umbrellas up inside the hotel. Just so crazy, because the roof was kind of leaking. Anyway, despite all the difficulties that were thrown at us, we filled the hall, and so. Yeah, the whole banquet was packed. It was just, I think, maybe 330 capacity, but it was all full. So Father spoke, and it was great. And then later he spoke that same night in the Hyatt Hotel for a long time. We were all so exhausted, but then drove very fast. I think Neil de Geer was one of the key drivers. And had to really speed between Canberra and Sydney, and they stayed at that time. It was called the ANA Hotel. Once again, it's changed the name. And in the presidential suite, Father called us around 9 o'clock at night, and then just stayed through till about 1 or 2 in the morning. And then we just crashed right there in the presidential suite because we had pledge the next morning. And we just got up, two parents came out of their room, and father started talking again and talked for another 2 or 3 hours. And then he just had to leave. Every mother's saying, "Cook, the plane is going to go now." And so father just left. Anyway, it was just such an incredible experience. Such an incredible experience. We were all so incredibly exhausted. I think we slept for about a day after that. Anyway, yeah, thank you very much. I hope gives a little bit of insight into those early days and the first 3 visits of two parents to Australia and New Zealand. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reverend Stone. Thank you for sharing your life and the time with our true parents together. That's great to see everyone so young, right back in the early days when the movement was just beginning around Australia, and seeing, just it's nice to see everyone looking young, but it's also nice to see everyone here looking happy and determined, and I remember two parents coming that time and coming down to the hotel, and I distinctly remember it raining inside the hotel. It was just, and not just a little bit of rain, a lot of water was coming down. But as Greg says, it was completely packed, and everyone was eager to listen to Father, and it was a great experience. I'll just open it up to others to share as well. Thank you, Greg. Yes, Jacinta. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would remember we were in Adelaide, and it was our family and Tamura and the Wendy Bab and our family with all the little kids. We filled up 2 vans and we drove from Adelaide all the way to Sydney with these walkie-talkies. Was the latest thing, and we were like talking to each other on the walkie-talkies, and so we'd always have stops together, and it was like an amazing time where we just went into caravan mode, and then got to Sydney and slept on the floor somewhere I can't remember, but it was really an amazing event when Father came. I can't remember which. I think it was 92. Anyway, well, it could have been 95. No, I think it might have been. No, I think it was 92. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta. Yes, Jeff, go ahead.
Wow, that was a very nice presentation, Greg. Step by step from the young days right to this point. Wow. Anyway, it's uncanny, the similarity in, we joined in the same year. My grandparents went to the First World War, grandfather. My father was in also the occupying forces of Japan. The same wedding picture outside the church, I have that with my parents and my grandparents and so on. Wow, there's a lot of similarities there in those years that we went. And then we went to Palau together. So anyway, there's a lot going on beyond our scope of understanding how God has brought us together for this amazing time to introduce two parents into Australia and New Zealand. So anyway, thank you, Greg. Anyway, so amazing, so important, historical presentation. God bless.
Thank you, Jeff. That's so true.
Anyway, working with Jeff is one of the highlights of my life, to be honest, and Jeff and Miyuki. Yeah, truly. Yeah.
Yes, Janine, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just remembering about thank you, Greg, for your testimony. That was really lovely, really good. But I was remembering about it being in the hotel, listening to True Father, and then it got so late and pledge was the next morning, what you're saying. And I remember that nobody had anything to put over them. I just had a jacket. Luckily I had a jacket, so I put it over me, and I was sleeping under a table. And I remember thinking, wow, this is just heaven, we're here with true parents and, sleeping on the floor. It doesn't matter any situation that you're in, that you're with true parents is just heaven. As I was going to sleep, we hardly got any sleep. And then saying pledge the next morning. Yeah, it's just such a special experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Janine. Yes, Silvana, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Greg. Our family came in 1997, so it was good to hear whatever happened there before we came. And, and yes, it was very nice to get the bigger picture, especially because when we came, I wasn't so involved. I was just, with the little kids. But anyhow, all through this time, since 1997 until now, so many things have happened, and on the personal level, family level, national level, whatever. But the Reverend Stone and their family is one constant in my own life. One very constant presence and very stable, and just they're always there, incredibly quietly supporting, and I feel like this family stabilizes my emotions because they're so cool. And I remember when we did the Hoon school, and then we started the Hoon home groups, the Hoon churches, and then every Sunday in those days we had the leaders meeting, the Hoon leaders meeting. And of course, there's so many things were happening between me and Peter all the time, so difficulties. But going and speaking with Reverend Stone and Reiko-san is kind of appeased us, and always like they have this very calm approach to everything. They never get, they always have some kind of very calm and very like fair viewpoint. And I didn't even realize, but when I look back, how helpful this family has been for our family, for our relationships, and I'm very, very grateful. It's just an incredible family. Their kids and our kids, they're connected. Right now, one of their son and maybe another one will join, and my son, they're in Iceland together. So our families always connected one way or the other. Anyway, thank you so much, Greg. Also, thank you for accepting to share your testimony today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Silvana. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Wright, go ahead.
Thank you, dear Greg. Such a wonderful testimony, like icon of in Australia. I think internationally, it's, you are very respected in many ways. And I come 1978, but really before, you are 1977, and first time I knew your family history, you are wonderful parents and incredible. It's also your grandmother is very religiously really deep understand for fade out and practice. That is incredible. And you had a really loved by parents and grandparents, and you are really, your love is really built up. And also you went to Korea 1992. Did not really understand that time, but I think communication with Mr. Che, and also preparation father come to Australia, and anyway, really you are such a many times also really welcome to parents. It's first time, second, third time, and you're always supporting publicly, but also individually. And still you are standing in front line and encouragement. When I think 18 or when you become 40 years in a public mission, I really I think I really push to River Park, and you can receive, I think, some kind of acknowledgement from headquarters. But anyway, you don't mind, but you still really keeping strong, and you're truly thanks. It's your life is encourage us. So time of difficult now, but really you love your sincere life, but loving God, the heavenly parents, and also loving for us, and also fantastic, joyful family life. 5 grandchildren. I think also your children is loving each other, supporting each other. It is really great. And also together with Reiko-san, so thank you. Express our gratitude. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rai. Yeah. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, everyone. It's actually time for us now to offer our unison prayer. So let's.
I just wanted to say something too about Greg. It's very hard. Like, I think I'm the kind of person who tried to shock him or get him upset or something, but he would never stop smiling. He never stops smiling. And that's something which I really appreciate. Yeah, you couldn't rattle him. And also I remember your mum. She was such a beautiful person. When she came to the centre in Melbourne, she was just glowing. I remember her face was glowing, type of person. I thought, wow, lucky man, mother like that. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
She's turning 100 in February.
Wow.
You're going strong.
Cheers.
Amazing.
Anyway, cheers.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, thanks to all those beautiful children too. They are supporting our kids, so yay. I mean, not in every way, but in the good way.
Thank you. I could see Liam wave at the back there too. Yeah, go ahead, Randall. Yes. I can't hear you. Need to unmute.
Good thinking. It's difficult to, put your hand up and say, yeah, okay, I can do this, unless you're following the example of someone else who's done even harder or tougher things. And at one stage, after my child was born, just a week after she was born, then I had to go to Brazil to work on the farm. And there was no way I could do that, except Greg was the one that asked me to, do that, bit of a sacrifice. And it's because of the type of things that he had been through, and even going to Korea after his child had only just been born as well, or while Reiko was pregnant, that it was kind of like, because of that example, then I could do different things. Also, when I gave my testimony, Greg was saying that I was a really good fundraiser. I would come second in the annual fundraising competition. Greg would come first. So, yeah, thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Greg. Really are the rock of our movement in many, many ways for many people. So, yeah, let's offer our unison prayer together. So I'll just share the screen. Let's begin. Adieu, adieu, adieu. Thank you, everyone. Thanks again, Greg, for a great testimony to your life and to our movement. And thank you, everyone, and see you all tomorrow. And don't forget to join the ILC.
Yeah, thank you, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. That was lovely.
Thank you.
Eventually,
Thank you
stones
all.
become diamonds under pressure.
Yeah.